Plastic waste is a pressing global issue, but what if it could be turned into a valuable resource? Now, initiative entrepreneurs are transforming waste into wealth, creating sustainable side hustles that can be able to benefit both environment and local communities. Well, for more, I'm joined by Regine le Roux, the founder of Re.Bag.Re.Use, where we'll be able to explore the potential of this approach, discussing how handmade products made from plastic waste can generate a stable income, support local economies, and also to be able to contribute more into a sustainable future. Well, welcome to Africa Side Hustle.
Thank you, Prudence. Good to be here.
And just getting into this conversation, just in the context of climate change, how can reusable waste be leveraged as a stable income stream, and also including this initiative, the Re.Bag.Re.Use?
I think the most important thing is that waste isn't necessarily waste. There's actually worth in waste. It took us just one empty plastic bread bag that has snowballed into this initiative that I must admit I never thought in a million years would grow as it has grown in the last 4 years. That I think if people are willing to look for opportunities, there are so many opportunities out there to make something out of nothing, to use our country is unfortunately filled with plastic. There's so much of it. And just to find a way to create employment, to create an extra bit of pocket money through a side hustle, there are so many opportunities out there. But realizing that you need to put in the work to be able to see the results.
Yeah. So what was the initial investment or startup cost for you to begin this business of creating products from repurposed plastic waste? And what advice would you be able to give to others looking to start a similar venture?
I must admit, the initial startup cost is literally a crochet needle, which I think is about 25 Rand, and an empty plastic bag, which you can easily find on the side of the road. So it is about seeing those opportunities. Oh, and a pair of scissors. You need a pair of scissors, crochet needle, and a plastic bag. But I think it is also important to realize it looks easy and simple, but I think there's so much more logistics behind it as well. Plastic needs to be fetched. It needs to be distributed, because what's key for me in terms of this initiative of Re.Bag.Re.Use is the minute that somebody has finished cutting the plant, which is plastic yarn made from plastic bags, they are reimbursed immediately, as well as soon as a product is completed, is to then also reimburse the ladies immediately. Because this initiative was born just after COVID, when I was asked by many people to borrow money. But that is such an undignified way, and it's awful to have to ask for money, that I wanted to find a way to use people's talents, to be able to use their creativity, to use a free resource as such, which is plastic, to be able to make something creative, an artwork out of it, to be sold as a functional piece of art. Because I think what's really important is that we don't just make something that can be reused once and be thrown away. What the ladies are making are absolutely beautiful, functional pieces. And I think what we need to take into consideration is there's a lot of logistics and a lot of behind the scenes that need to happen to make it look easy.
Yeah. So you've identified certain skills right there where we've spoken about doing, or rather making, a crochet. So with that and using the waste materials, how do you determine a cost of that sculpture?
So basically what we've worked out is how much the ladies get paid per ball of plant, how many is used, and then also how many balls of plant are used per bag. So for example, a normal shopping bag, which is our flagship product, takes about 120 empty bread bags to make. So we've worked out the cost per plant ball and how long it takes for a lady to complete one of these bags. They do work very quickly to make a bag, but it does take a couple of hours to make one bag. And then to also have a look to make sure that we actually have that balance between the products that we that need the materials that we need to use, but also to make it affordable, because it doesn't help we're making these beautiful products, but they're too expensive. So we need to find that happy medium ground where people are seeing the value, they're seeing the beauty, they're seeing the amount of work that goes into it, and then willing to actually pay towards that. Because I think one of the other key things that also differentiates us and what we look at is, apart from reimbursing the ladies immediately once the product is finished, we also do give a percentage to the neighborhood old age home and to the SPCA, just spreading that love as far as possible, making sure that we have touch points through the work that we do within the wider community within which we live and work and play.
I see that it actually has like a social impact. So now, how can governments and NGOs rather, or private sector organizations support such initiatives like Re.Bag.Re.Use?
So that's a very big focus of mine personally, is to make sure that we're getting this message across of making something beautiful out of waste. We work with different corporates. We're very, very grateful for the support that we've been receiving through the ribbon. But in terms of getting more support, we do have, we've worked with event organizers where we've made conference bags. We have something called a lanyard loop. So instead of, we'll make the lanyards from a bread bag, but then instead of that lanyard being thrown away at the end, we will give back a sustainability deposit to get that lanyard back, sanitize it, and reuse that. So it's to look, how can we form strategic associations, strategic alliances with NGOs, businesses, corporate South Africa, with government, to see how can we work together on this, because there are so many opportunities. We don't always have to buy new to be able to reuse what we already have. So it is about making sure that we get that message out there to reduce waste, because it's, in terms of Re.Bag.Re.Use, we reducing plastic from landing up in landfill. So just to put that into context, over the last 4 years, we have repurposed just over a ton of plastic, and that's about 8 baby elephants worth of plastic not landing up in landfill. And it's also making sure that it's a little bit of extra a stipend for the community in which we work. And then also, as you mentioned, it was the social impact to a larger extent.
And I believe that you'll be collecting rather the award, the Sabri Award Africa for fashion, which will be able to have an impact into your future work, especially in the fashion industry. So what are your plans for continued innovation and excellence?
It's very key for us to continue innovating and to find ways to make bread bags beautiful. I must admit, not in a million years did I think that we would ever be considered for a fashion award for a plastic bag here in as a Sabre Award, and we're receiving it this evening at the Sabre Awards Africa here in Mombasa in Kenya. So incredibly grateful to be recognized for that. And I think, again, it's looking and seeing how can we continue to set to learn from each other, to set the example to others, maybe be a bit of an inspiration somewhere, to show that we can actually make these magnificent pieces of art from waste, that there is just so much that we can do with something like an empty bread bag.
What advice can you give for that entrepreneur to have that global recognition in doing creative sculptures?
I think what's very important to keep in mind with any entrepreneurship, it's first of all to make sure that you have a vision in place in terms of where you want to go, followed by what your key values are, because what those values are going to attract the people that you work with and the teams that you get on board. And what's also very important is, I think very often we want to try and do things on our own, but we need to work and collaborate with other people. And to be able to do that, we need to make sure that we align our values to those other strategic alliances, because if we're going to be working and partnering with organizations and partners and people that don't uphold the values that we have in terms of respect for the environment, teamwork, being collaborative, then we are not going to get very far. So I think that is absolutely crucial. And I think what's also very important to keep in mind is forward is forward. Every day a little bit. You can't just do a little bit on one day and then think it's going to absolutely become this massive project. It's baby steps. And it took one bread bag and it's just snowballed into what we have today. But there's been a lot of hard work in terms of that, and consistency, just to be consistent in terms of slogging away, coming up with new ideas, speaking with people and bouncing off ideas. We have to work together to be able to grow, to be able to innovate. There's no possible way that you can just do it on your own. Just say, if you want to go far, you need to go as a group. So it's really important just to keep that in mind and to be very focused in terms of what you want to achieve. So yeah, so just in terms of the lessons is having a core group of a team that you can rely on, that does the work very well, and that has shared values that gets us to the next point, and allowing for that growth and innovative and to be creative.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on today's episode on Africa Side Hustle, and that's Regine le Roux, the founder of Re.Bag.Re.Use. So as we conclude today's episode, remember that Africa's entrepreneurial spirit is unstoppable. Turn your passions into profits and do join the movement. Share your hustle story with us using hashtag Africa Side Hustle, and let's build a community of innovators and game changers. Don't forget to subscribe for more entrepreneurial stories, business news and insights on CNBCAfrica.com. Till next week.